on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, which was Twitter, and a few other places. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for voting. I put a poll on my IG stories asking what you wanted me to talk about. And the topic that won, it's still live, so you can still go and vote. But up until this point, the most votes were on 30-minute workouts, how to get more bang for your buck when you're doing a workout in a hotel gym. Now, the busy women I train work 14-hour days. They're on long-haul flights. They travel every other week, and they often work out from a hotel gym because that is better than nothing, and that might be all they have access to. And there are some key things that I find myself saying to them time and time again, which I thought would be helpful to the people in this audience, in my wider audience and network. So here I am sharing those tips. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want a copy of this recording, just comment copy and I'll send it over to you. This will be repurposed as a podcast. So everyone will be able to go and view this once it's been stripped and turned into a podcast. Though any questions that come up, let me know. And if you want a copy, again, just comment copy. Make sure I get that to your direct messages. So let's get straight into it. Before you even go on your trip, the most helpful thing you can do is look for photos of the training space on the website. So the hotel is going to have a website, I would hope. Go onto the website and look for photos of the gym in the gallery. If there are no photos, send the hotel an email and ask them what their gym equipment is like. Ask them for photos. They, I'm sure, will be more than happy to provide that for you. That's just good customer service. Now, in most instances, a gym is going to have, at the very least, a bench and dumbbells. And let me tell you, you have a million options if you have a bench and dumbbells, like truly, because there is so much you can do with the whole body with a bench and with dumbbells. So there's no excuse. There is no excuse to not be training. Every time people go and have a holiday, you either fall into the category of person that says, I'm going to keep this going, I'm going to keep up all the hard work, I'm going to make an effort to maintain what I've worked for, or you're the person who says, it's too hard, my normal gym equipment isn't here, this isn't my usual training environment, so what's the point? There's a point, because if you travel once a month, that is 12 opportunities you have to keep moving the needle on your health and fitness goals. So let it be known, if you have a bench and if you have dumbbells, at the very least, you have enough to maintain the muscle that you've worked so hard for. And that's the hardest part. Muscle is not easy to keep. It's easy to lose. So you owe it to yourself to make sure you do something in whatever capacity you can when you're outside of your usual training space. So a bench and dumbbells, you have a ton of options. Often there will also be a cable machine, which is great. It's great for variety. Gives you a few more options. Often there will be a lat pull down and seated row machine. Sometimes even a leg curl, leg extension. So you got enough to work with. You've got enough to play with. But first things first, look at the training space itself. Go find those photos on the hotel website and email them asking for photos if you are unable to find them. Second of all, look at their opening hours. So if you have a conference at 9, you want to do a workout at 6 so that you have enough time to train, have breakfast, get ready, prepare your slides, do any final editing and revisions on whatever it is that you might be putting that day. You need to know when the gym is open. If they don't open until 6:30 or 7, email the gym and ask if it's possible to get in earlier. Just ask. You get in life what you have the courage to ask for, to loosely quote Miss Oprah Winfrey. So it is worth asking. And again, you need to maintain the muscle you've worked so hard to build. You need to get into that gym. And if you need them to open half an hour earlier, and if they're happy to do that, it's worth asking, okay? From there, we want to, again, still focusing on preparation here, make sure you have your workout kit laid out the day beforehand. Put it in the bathroom on a coat hanger so it's easy. You can find it. You can get dressed in the dark just about, and not have to worry about anything. I always recommend my clients eat a banana before training. It's a great source of electrolytes. It's a great source of simple sugar. It's a great way to fuel your workout. Simple, easy, digestible. You've got those great sugars running through the bloodstream within 30 to 45 minutes, which is going to fuel your workout. So first things first, wake up, brush your teeth, put on your workout clothes, eat your banana, start hydrating. Especially if you were jet lagged, especially if you've come off a long haul flight, you're going to be dehydrated. You are going to need more water and more salt and more magnesium and more potassium and more calcium than I can tell you. So preparation is critical. Put your training shoes next to the door. So all you have to do is get your banana fat ass into those shoes and out the door. From there, we get to the gym. We want to have some sort of plan. If you only have half an hour, I would do warm up, I would do 4 exercises, I would get out of there, and I would get to breakfast. Now, it's at this point I want to say, if you can pre-order breakfast and pre-organize breakfast, make sure you do that. If you can order room service breakfast the day beforehand, so you don't have to go to the buffet, you don't have to be tempted by other foods, you don't have to wait for 5,000 people in the omelet queue, that is going to save you so much time. Have your breakfast pre-organized, pre-delivered, pre-arranged, just pre-everything, pre your whole life, okay? Preparation is critical here. And make sure that that is ready for you to consume once you get back to your hotel gym, okay? We don't have time to be navigating around this island of salads and this buffet counter here in the egg station and the person who put the croissant in the freaking toaster. There's always that one person. What is up with that? Why do people keep putting pastry in the toaster? It says do not put pastry in the toaster, and yet we still have morons who think it's okay to be putting their danishes in the... Anyway, okay, Laura, stop going on a rant. Don't be... I know you're not that person. That's why you're here. If you were that person, you wouldn't be in my audience. So congratulations. You're not stupid. So pre-organized breakfast. High protein is what we want here. Okay, some source of carbs, sure, but I'm really looking for fiber, so high veg, high protein. That's going to keep you full, and that's what we want when you have a big day ahead. We want the protein to help the body recover from your training, also to keep you feeling full, and protein is just the hardest macronutrient to come by, especially when you're traveling. And vegetables can also be, depending if you're traveling through Southeast Asia, often they're laden with sauce, they're very oil heavy, they're very not so fun, and deep fried often as well. So where possible, high protein, veg, high fiber, and that's going to keep you feeling satiated, hopefully, until lunchtime. Once we get to the gym, this is what I do. Warm up. 3 minutes of cardio. Just warming up. 60 to 75% intensity. Get off the bike, get off the rower, get off the treadmill, go straight into 12 squats, no weight, 12 lunges on one leg, 12 lunges on the other leg. Then grab a big towel. So make sure you take your water bottle with you. Make sure you take a big towel with you. You're going to hold the towel end by end. Bring the towel all the way over the head. It's a little hard in this tiny space. Touch behind you and then all the way back in front. No bending of the elbow. Keep your elbow completely locked out. Shoulder dislocates, that's what we call these things. And that is going to be a great way to open up the chest, get you feeling nice and tall, get you nice and nimble, get rid of those aches and creaks in the neck and the upper back and shoulders. And that is going to set the tone for the rest of the workout. That's it. That should take you not even 10 minutes. So with the remaining 20 or so minutes, what I would focus on, I would do a more core focused exercise. That could be a plank. It could be a side plank, but you've got 2 sides. That's going to take you too long. That could be Russian twists. That could be a crunch isometric. That could come in a few different forms. And I would be doing that before doing a lower body focused exercise, such as goblet squats. You could do split squats, but again, you then have to do each side. It's going to be more time consuming. So if you have half an hour, not the best option. I would keep it as a bilateral movement. You could be doing dumbbell deadlifts if you've done deadlifts before. If you haven't, probably not the best environment to be trying them in, But if you are familiar with deadlifts, that could work really nicely. And then I would go into a back focused exercise. That could be a chest supported row. That could be a single arm row. If you have a cable, that could be a face pull. That could be a lat pull down if you have a lat pull down machine. And from there, I would go into a chest exercise, such as a chest press, such as a push up, such as a chest fly, and a cable chest fly if you have access to a cable. If you have access to, I've seen a few pushing based machines in different hotel gyms. So if you have access to one of those, you can incorporate that as well. That would be what I do. And I would do all 4 exercises back to back without rest, stopping to have 2 minutes rest after the 4th exercise. So let me recap. The first exercise I would do would be a bit more core specific. Second exercise would be lower body. The third exercise would be back, a pulling exercise. And the 4th exercise would be a pushing exercise, so something more chest, anterior delt focused. So 1, 2, 3, 4, then have 2 minutes rest, and then repeat. You would probably get through that 3, maybe 4 times in half an hour. Now, the reason why this works is because you're kind of alternating between the body parts and body groups that you're using. So when you're using the core, you should kind of be using the whole body, and depending on what the exercise is, but you're not really taxing your legs. Then we go into legs. Now, when you're using legs, you're not really taxing the back muscles. You're not really taxing the chest muscles, okay? So if you come to understand, every single exercise doesn't impede your ability to perform in the next one, which means you have enough quote unquote energy to do the next one. That's why this works really, really nicely. You should be able to flow between each movement whilst, yes, getting more tired, but without the fatigue in that specific muscle group affecting your performance in the next exercise. Again, after the 4th exercise, we have 2 minutes rest, at least 90 seconds. If you don't need that rest, you did not try hard enough. Now, this is something a lot of my high achieving women don't yet understand or are coming to terms with. It's easy to think I've only got half an hour, so I have to go as fast as possible and I have to rush through everything, and more is more and more is better, and actually better is better. Okay, more reps does not equal better results or better results. I just said results. Better output, better outcomes. It doesn't mean you're getting stronger just because you did more reps or just because you're able to do them quickly. In fact, when you're training from a different environment and you don't have the usual equipment that you would in a fully stocked commercial gym or PT studio, the goal needs to shift from building muscle to maintaining muscle, which means it's really important in this instance that you lift as heavy and as safely as you can, which means that going a bit slower is going to be more beneficial to you. Now, this can be tricky because in hotel gyms, again, you're not always going to have the same range and variety when it comes to weights. You might have 5 kilo dumbbells, 7.5 kilo dumbbells, 10 kilo dumbbells, where in your usual training space, you might have 5, 6 kilos, 7 kilos, 8 kilos, 9 kilograms, 10 kilograms, and that gives you more options. My advice here is if you are not terribly jet lagged, then I would go for the heavier weights and the lower reps, because the goal here is to maintain muscle as much as you can, which means you really need to be lifting as heavy as you possibly can, of course, being as safe as possible. So especially with shoulder and arm movements, oftentimes 7.5 might feel a bit heavy for a shoulder press, or 10 might feel a little bit heavy for a shoulder press. But 7.5 might be a bit easy. I would go for the 10 kilograms and try and get as many reps as you possibly can. So long as you're getting 6, 8, 10 reps, that's totally fine. Now, what you can do on your last round through all of those movements would be to add a drop set. Or you could add 1.5 reps. So what that means is, if you were doing your shoulder press at 10 kilograms and you were getting, let's say you went 8 reps on the first round, 8 reps on the second round, and the last round you're feeling pretty pooped and you only managed 7 or even 6, I would then grab the 7.5 kilogram dumbbells and do reps until you die. And I really mean like reps until you die, until you physically cannot do any more repetitions. And you would maybe get 12 to 16 reps out at that weight. That is a great way to create the same level of intensity, but without having the same equipment you would usually have in your normal training space. Any questions about that? I can see comments, I can see questions. If you leave them in the box for me, just let me know, because I want to make sure I explain this correctly. In my mind, it makes sense. This is my bread and butter, but to you, you might be a bit like, what does she mean? So that is one great technique to keep your muscle mass as high as possible and to keep all that muscle whilst you're traveling and you're not in your usual space, when you don't have the exact weight that you want, because that can be a really tricky situation to navigate. Now, the other way you can work through that is if you had 10 kilograms for shoulder press, we'll use the same example. And then on the last round, you felt like you just had like a little bit more to give. Again, you could drop the weights, so decrease the weight that you were using and do 1.5 repetitions for each rep. So with a shoulder press, it's a little tricky if you're listening, you're not watching, but you would usually start with your wrists over your shoulders in the top position. You would come slightly out and then down until the weights are just hovering above your shoulders, before then returning to that top position where your wrist is over your shoulder. Now, when we're doing 1.5 reps, we're going to come down like usual. So we bring the weights slightly apart and then down towards the shoulders. Though this, on the first time, we're only going to go halfway back up. So we're going to bring the weights from the shoulders to about ear level. Once the weights are at ear level, we're going to go back down to the shoulders, then fully extend the elbow until your wrist is over the shoulder. So every rep has an extra half repetition. So all the way down, halfway up, all the way down again, then all the way to the top. And that's how we do 1.5 reps. That is another way you can increase the intensity of an exercise without having the exact weight that you want or the exact equipment that you want or that you would typically use in your normal training environment. So these are just some techniques you can employ when you're on the go, when the weight is not the usual weight, when there's no squat rack, when there's no Smith machine. Because the big thing here is creating that intensity during the workout. Again, it's easy to think I've only got 20 minutes, so I have to do every single machine. I have to do every single exercise I can possibly think of. And that's really not the case. In this instance, fewer exercises with greater intensity is going to yield far better results. And the goal here, again, is not to lose weight. It's not to, although that doesn't mean that you don't want to, it's not to build a ton of muscle mass, although, of course, that doesn't mean that you don't want to. The goal here really is to keep what you've worked so hard for when you are in your usual environment. So if that's Singapore, when you get back to Singapore, then you hit the ground running. You pick up where you left off with your trainer. You pick up where you left off with your nutrition, because you've got that routine, you have that schedule, and that's when we really try and build on top of the muscle mass that you've already built. When you're traveling, it's different. The goal is to just keep as much as possible. It's really about maintaining, which means you really need to go heavy. When you're in that hotel gym, you need to go heavy. Again, the caveat being, how jet lagged are you? Because we need to respect jet lag. We need to respect the fact that the central nervous system is not really going to be your best friend. And in that instance, you're better off going a little bit lighter and doing more repetitions. If you're not jet lagged, you need to go heavier and do fewer repetitions and go a little bit slower in your workout. So 4 exercises really. If you have half an hour, I would be doing core, something more core specific and core focused, then onto lower body, then onto back, a pulling motion, especially if you are seated for prolonged periods and you get aches and pains in your neck and your shoulder and your back, which is every other person. You really want to be trying to do some sort of like seated row, chest supported row, single arm row, lat pull down if they have a lat pull down machine, great. If not, totally understand. And then some sort of pushing motion. So something from the chest, that could be a push up or a press up if you're in the UK. That could be a chest press, it could be a close grip chest press, it could be a chest fly. They are going to be the most necessary for movement. You're also moving the biggest muscles in the body, so biggest bang for buck. That's going to burn the most calories as well. So if that's something of interest to you, that's going to do it. And each exercise is not going to hinder your performance of the next exercise because they're not conflicting. It's not as though you're doing a quad exercise first and then a quad exercise second and then a quad exercise third, in which case your quads are going to be completely fried by the time you finish. It's just really impractical when you're traveling. So when you alternate between body parts and then have rest at the end, it's far more efficient and far more effective. Now, if you have a little bit longer and if you have closer to 45 minutes or perhaps an hour, what I would add would be, after you do that monster set of those 4 different exercises I just touched on, I would then choose something a little bit more shoulder focused, followed by something a little bit more bicep focused, followed by something a little bit more tricep focused. I'll give you some examples. So something more shoulder focused would be, previous example, a shoulder press. That could be a lateral raise, it could be a front raise, it could be a cable lateral raise. I'm thinking about dumbbells and benches and what I can do with them. They are the top examples that come to mind. What is more bicep focused? Okay, obvious is going to be a bicep curl. You could do that on a cable as well. You could do a hammer curl. You could change the grips. You could do a reverse curl if you wanted to. You could do a spider curl. So on a bench with a slight incline. They're all perfect examples of bicep focused exercises. And then something more tricep focused, well, that could be a tricep push down. On a cable, it could be a skull crusher. That could be a single arm cable, tricep pull down. What else? I was going to say dips. If there's a dip bar, which is arguably also a bit more chest and anterior deltoid focused, so it kind of covers both boxes there. They're my go-to examples there. So that would be my addition. If you got through those first 4 exercises and you still had time, if you had already done 3 rounds, I would perhaps go for a 4th round if you only have like 7 more minutes. If you have more time than that, so if you have an additional 15 to 20 minutes following that first set, again, my go-to would be add a shoulder exercise, add a bicep focused exercise, add a tricep focused exercise, try and get through that 3 to 4 times, and you'll probably get through it about 3 times. So again, all back to back, no stopping between exercises, with 2 minutes rest after your tricep exercise, so after the 3rd exercise, and enjoy the burn. That is more or less what I would do. If you know that there is a hotel with a really good setup, I would just try and book that hotel wherever you can. Maybe mention it to whoever is in charge of organizing your travel. If there's a designated or dedicated person who coordinates travel within the company you work at or work for, perhaps reach out to them and say, hey, look, I prefer this hotel because it has a great gym. It's easier for me to stay healthy and look after myself when I stay here. And, something that's really, really important too that we forget is passing on that feedback. If you want to have better health choices, then you need to look at how you can influence that. If there was a hotel that you traveled to recently and they had really good equipment, they had a really nice training space, they had a really healthy menu and really healthy options on the menu. Perhaps they had options which were also gluten-free and dairy-free, which is great for a lot of people who have food intolerances. Then say something. Don't just complain when the gym sucks. Don't just complain when the food sucks or when there's no food options. Make sure you also let people know that you appreciate having those options, because we have to be part of the change we wish to see in this world. And if people don't know that we give a damn, then people aren't going to have it on their radar to consider these things when they remodel the gym or when they revise their menu. When we give feedback and we say, hey, thank you so much for including these options, or thank you so much for adding a Smith machine to the gym. That was a great addition. That was really thoughtful. That was very well thought through. That goes a long way. And the more people who speak up and mention how important these things are to them, the more change we can collectively make. So I really feel that this is becoming more and more spoken about. This is becoming more and more on people's radars, and companies like hotels are just going to have to give more of a shit when it comes to how they equip their gym, because, and same with condos, honestly, this is going to have to be, it's going to be increasingly, how to say, there's going to be change. There's going to be change, let me say that. The building management and developers are going to have to think more and more and more about this, especially because people don't have so much time to always get to a commercial gym to exercise. You know, people are more and more and more going to train at their home or at the facility at their home. So the facility itself is going to have to be better and better and better and better. And part of it getting better also requires us to give that feedback and that input and say, hey, look, this machine is really good. This machine doesn't make any sense. Or, you know, going from 2.5 kilos to 5 kilos is actually a really big jump when it comes to shoulder and arm movements. Or going from 5 to 7.5 kilograms is a big change when it comes to, again, shoulder and arm movements. Not so much when it comes to lower body, but definitely noticeable when it comes to upper body. If you want to see those changes in hotels and in condo gyms or home gyms, you need to give good feedback when things are good and make suggestions when you have some valuable feedback, and not just, oh, this is broken again, this is rusty, this is really, you know, calorie dense, this doesn't fit my macros. Like, help that industry help you be healthier, because it's not the job of a hotel to give a shit about your health and fitness goals. Now, increasingly, they will have to take on more and more and more of that responsibility because of our lifestyles. Though that statement remains the same. It's not their job to give a damn about your health and fitness goals. If you want them to care, help them care. Show them how they can care. Show them the difference it makes to your life when they do care. And that will form a very positive feedback loop where you see improvements and you see more improvements and you see more improvements. And, you know, hotels will start getting noticed for being so healthy. And then people will go there because, you know, that demand for that healthy living and travel balance is becoming increasingly important to people. So all this to say, let the health and fitness industry help you by informing the travel industry about how they can help you become an even healthier version of yourself. So there you have it. I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something. If you want a copy of this, make sure you reply copy, and I will have that sent straight to your inbox, because this will be turned into a podcast. It will be posted onto my IG feed. So if you're not following on Instagram, it's at Team Laura Phillips, PHILLIPS. And if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for watching on Instagram. Thank you for those who voted on my poll as well. I really appreciate you partaking in that. I hope this was informative and educational, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If you're just joining now, make sure you go back to the start and watch again. Take some notes, because there's definitely some great takeaways. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.